Welcome, everybody. I'm Pastor Ken, the senior pastor here at Vertical Church. And thank you for being a part of today's celebration. To all the folks that are tuning in online, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to connect with what God's doing here at Vertical. Hey, guys, before I jump into the message this morning, just a quick announcement. Listen, if any of you would like to be a part of this year's Christmas Eve celebration, we've got a special event planned. We have a calling. If you'd like to be a part of the choir that comes and sings that day, you can come this Tuesday night at 7:30. There's more room available. The commitment is just for this holiday. We'll talk more about that later, but if you have always wanted to be on that way, I'm going to sing some Christmas carols. We got a special. We got some wonderful things, and we've got some fantastic people to train on that end. So we all sound good, sound great, be a part. But if you'd like to be a part of that, you can come out this Tuesday night at 7:30, and then they'll talk about rehearsals up into the holiday. Amen? All right. Hey, how many of you are ready to jump into the Word today? Well, if you've been with us, we've been in a series called Kingdom Builders. Last week, we got really practical about it. Why? Because God has always designed and desired that you and I would cooperate with Him to be the builders of His kingdom. That was God's original intention when He created humankind. When God made man, the Bible says when God made us, okay, in His own image, in the image of God created He him, male and female. You know, ladies, that's one of those places to shout, because that's one of the things, unless you're a Bible reader, you won't realize that the image of God requires both the man and the woman. And all the ladies in the house say, amen. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because, you know, that's like a male-dominated society. They're like, oh, yeah, we're God. No, there's only one God, and as Captain America said, He don't dress like that. Guess what? No. Here's the deal. God made us in His image, and guess what? He wanted to work. His plan was to spread His kingdom upon this earth, and He wanted to do so through humankind. But what happened? Sin messed the issue up, correct? We became selfish. We became self-centered. We did our own thing. But Jesus came on the scene and announced the coming of the kingdom. And you see, Jesus was asked the question about the kingdom of God, because the good news for all of you today is that the kingdom is here. Because when Jesus was asked by the religious leaders of His time, they said, when will the kingdom come? How will the kingdom come? And Jesus said, it does not come with observation. For the kingdom of God is where? It's within you. See, God comes to reign from the inside out. And the way in which God works, He works in us so that He can work through us, that He can work with us to establish His kingdom on earth. That's why He wants all of us to be kingdom builders. So I want to catch this point this morning because it's so important to recognize that in the New Testament, generosity is an issue of the heart. See, people question, people debate, people talk about the issue of giving. They get into the issue of tithes. They get into the issue of offerings. They said, oh, you know, Pastor Ken, oh, that's Old Testament. That's under the law of Moses. And the truth be told, yes. But it was law under the Old Testament. You didn't have a choice in those ends. But now the New Testament freed us from the constraints of law. The only thing God has ever wanted and ever desired is that we would learn to give from the inside. The reality of it is we should give as the result of love. Love is the most generous reality there is. Because when you love, when you truly love, love's giving never has strings attached. In other words, that means, guys, when you give your wife, when you do something nice, when you give to your wife, it's not expecting return when you go to bed tonight. Yeah, come on, all the ladies said amen. All right? No. Giving is purely out of the heartbeat, okay, of wanting to show somebody, because generosity, living, you know, we should live for the benefit of others. Giving is the expression of love. And our giving should be the result of our love for God. Even when we give to others, that's how we express love for God. You ever have people tell you they love you, but they never help you? And you wonder and go like, that's why where do the expressions get coined? When people say, well, you know, talk is cheap. Well, it is cheap. Because a lot of people write checks with their mouth that they never cash. Right? Oh, yeah, I love you, brother. That doesn't go a whole long when you need help. But here's the point. Love should be an expression. In fact, that's what the New Testament teaches. That's why when Paul was writing in 2 Corinthians, Paul said these words. He says, he that sows sparingly reaps sparingly. And he that sows bountifully reaps bountifully. In other words, the manner in which God blesses us, Paul tells us, is purely dependent on us. Because there's only two reasons in the New Testament we should give: faith and love. Faith believes that God is who he said he is, that he will do all that he said he will do. So generosity flowing out of the heart recognizes that when I give for the right reasons, giving is not the means of getting. Some people give for the wrong reasons, but God knows the heart. See, God has always wanted to have his throne on our heart. And when we give out of faith, we believe that God is bigger. You can't outgive God. But love, that's why he went on to say, so let every man give as he purposes in his heart. Not grudgingly or of necessity. In other words, don't give out of law. Don't give out of wrong reasons or motivations. But let him give out of the joy of his heart, for God loves a generous, prompt to do giver. But he goes on to say, for God is able to bless us, that we always, having all sufficiency in all things, abound to every good work, that we always, see, God has said, test me, see me, watch what I can do for you. And then he went on, the same passage says, because he gives seed to the sower and bread to the eater, that he might increase the seed of our sowing and the fruits of our generosity, okay? The fruits of our righteousness. And then I love this because I got a chance to experience this head on. This week, we began Friday already to distribute to all of the families. We will feed in this church over 1,100 families within this community. And the numbers are growing. Because as we opened up the Atwater Senior Center this week. And this Friday, Mayor Harp was there with us in New Haven. And then we went around, we went to the senior center over in East Shore, and then we went over to the Dixwell Avenue. Well, it says specifically when Paul went on, he goes, why does God want us? That we would be enriched in every way? That why? So that we can be generous on every occasion and through our generosity, cause thanksgiving to God? Well, when I was at one of the runs, I got a call from my wife because my wife had taken our dog to the groomer. And the lady that does it, we call her Grandma. She's an older lady that's really sweet. She does such a marvelous job with our dog. Well, my wife was sharing with her what our church was doing and all the rest of the stuff, and she said, oh, is there any way your church, I have a young girl that works here. She's a single mom. She's struggling to make ends meet. Is there any way your church could do something for her? So my wife calls me on the phone. We're like, got it. I'll drop it off after I finish in the last delivery. I'll catch something at the church, and I'll go down to the groomers and drop it off there. So I walked in that afternoon, and Grandma was there. I know her because I've brought Murphy there before. And so she goes, ooh, would you mind giving it to her? And so she calls the girl out of the back who has no idea what's about to happen. And I just turned around and said to her, excuse me. We just want you to know that God loves you, and this is here to help you to have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family. Well, she just began to boo-hoo and cry. And I'm going to tell you this, guys, acts of generosity are things that you never, ever regret. There are things that last for eternity. There are a lot of things you've done with your money that you regret. There's a lot of things you've done for your money you can't even account for, right? But there is nothing that you do out of the generosity of your heart that is motivated by love that you ever regret because it lasts forever. And so today, as we kind of jump into it, if you have a Bible, turn to Luke chapter 12. And here's where we're going today, because Jesus is going to talk to us about a heart condition that we're not generally aware of. In fact, it's so deceitful, it's something you never see when you look in a mirror. It's something that nobody ever believes is ever going on in their lives. In fact, when I say it to you, it's going to conjure thoughts in your own mind because it does. It tends to have that effect. But it's kind of a condition of the heart. It's kind of like, has anybody ever had mold in your house? Where does mold grow? It grows in the dark, right? And when you shine light on it, light kills it. It stops it. But you see, there's a heart condition that we might not be all that familiar with. And Jesus is about to shine the light of God's word upon it. Because it's kind of like when you hear about it, it's like cancer. You hear about cancer, you hear somebody that's in stage 4, they're dying. Well, it didn't start there. nor did the condition. What's the condition that Jesus is about to warn us about? It's called greed. And I hear the instant gasp in the audience because most people, when you hear the term greed, it conjures up the thoughts of Ebenezer Scrooge. You know, we know the famous Christmas Carol that way. Or we think of people like Bernie Madoff, you know, the Ponzi scheme dude, or some Wall Street fat cat. But you know what? It didn't start there. And so this is the issue that Jesus is about to give us some insight in. So here in Luke chapter 12, starting in verse 13, here Jesus is teaching one day, and all of a sudden somebody yells out from the crowd this thing. Look, it says, someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." It's probably not anything Jesus was talking about. But guess what? The guy says, "Jesus, teacher, tell my brother." Here's a dispute going on, right? He's asking Jesus to get into the middle of a family dispute. And here, Jesus doesn't know all the facts. He doesn't know all that's happened. He doesn't know all the rest of it. And who's the one that wants him to get in charge? Why are they trying to get Jesus involved? Because they figure, you know, he's the voice of authority. Then maybe he can cause the one to do. Because the one that's upset is usually the one that feels like what? They weren't dealt justly with, right? The people who are the most upset about the situation is the ones that don't think they're getting their fair share. So he's wanting Jesus to weigh into the situation. And there's nothing worse than a dispute over money. Anybody ever been involved that way? That's why anybody that really knows me well knows that I have such an aversion to the issues of money. I mean, I'm the kind of person, honestly, if I'm going to go out with people and stuff, I just would rather pay. Because there's just this thing, because why? When I was growing up, okay, this has just been part of my life. When I was growing up, my mother was an immigrant Italian, okay? My grandmother, her first husband died in Italy, and she remarried, and the man that she remarried had been studying to be a priest, okay? So in my mom's family, there were 12 kids, good Catholics, okay? So they were good, so when they came here to America, okay, my mom's family moved to New Canaan. Now you gotta remember this, my mom was the youngest of 12, and I was born when she was 40, so I'm very far removed from many of my relatives this way, okay? But when the Italians came here, if you know anything about Connecticut when it grows, okay, I grew up in Stamford, and so Fairfield County is now considered the Gold Coast, all right? But when I was young, okay, the Italians, when they migrated here, we called New Canaan Guinea Alley. Now, like the land seems like it's made out of gold, because I know years ago, a building lot in New Canaan was just so exorbitant. I was like, what the heck, really? But my relatives, so my mom's family, when the Italians came here, they bought property. Because the American dream is to build your own ability to make your own way by home ownership. So they came, they saved every penny, they bought property, and then they would buy more and have rentals and other things, because that's what it, so my grandmother, okay, she had, as she grew older, there were certain of the members of the family, my mom being one of them, okay, that took care of, that oversaw my grandma's affairs, okay? My grandma actually lived with us at one time, and it was interesting because my grandma didn't speak any English, okay? And my grandmother, I remember as a kid, my grandmother used to like to watch well, back then it was WWF, okay? She thought all that was real, okay? And we used to have a television, you had to turn the knob. Yeah, I'm really dating myself. But my grandmother knew, she knew when it was on and all the rest, she wanted to watch it, but my mom died when I was 8. So my grandma didn't live with us for a time, so my grandmother started living on her own again in one of the houses that she owned in New Canaan. And my grandmother, into her 90s, her entire backyard was a garden. That's why when she lived with us, my dad was a hillbilly from West Virginia. My dad had a problem that he'd come home from work, and my grandmother was digging the dandelions out of the front yard and taking them in the house to eat. Yeah, unless you're Italian, you don't know what in the world I'm talking about, okay? So my grandmother's family, okay, my mom died, my grandma was still living, okay? And my grandmother's sister, my Sudanad, okay, her and her husband were never able to get pregnant. So they had purchased lots of land, all the rest. My grandmother and her sister had this love-hate relationship. They would be together, but they would always grumble when they were together. I'm glad I didn't speak a lot of Italian. I knew enough to get by, but I probably wouldn't have liked the discussions they were having with each other, okay? But my Sudanad died right before my grandmother died. And so she left my grandmother all of her estate because she was her living heir. And then my grandmother died. And when my grandmother died, my mother's family went to war. Now, you'd have to understand old-fashioned Italians to know this one. Because when my grandmother was finally put into a nursing home because the rest of her kids, the one that were left, didn't want to take care of her, that's like death to an older Italian. I'm like, what? You know, you're not going to take me into your house? And so my grandmother called her attorney and had the attorney come to the convalescent home, okay? Now, here was the problem. My grandmother, she didn't read or write English, okay? And she signed with an X. But she cut all of the rest of those kids out of her will. Well, when she died and they all found out, it was World War III. Now, I was too young to know most of what was going on, but as I was growing up, I began to realize, they said, what? They said, what? Because my mom was still left in the will, because my mom had showed compassion and love to my grandmother. My mother didn't do it for that reason. But now I have cousins and aunts trash talking my mom. I'm like, what? I'm glad I didn't find this out till after I got born again. I'm even tempted to go Rambo on them. I'm like, what? I mean, my mom was the most generous, kind person. In fact, when my cousin didn't have the proverbial pot to pee in or the window to throw it out of, he had a baby. And my mom, because he married a woman that he met in college, her parents were farmers in South Dakota. My mom took her entire summer to take my cousin's wife to visit her parents because they couldn't leave the farm to come visit their grandchild. And my mom gave the summer to that. And to have my cousin, I find out, trash talking my mom. I'm like, dude, where you at, bro? But no, I'm sanctified now. I have to watch it. So here, bottom line, I tell you all that to tell you, no, that's a secret, please. Don't tell nobody out of this room. I just told you very something personal about my life. But here's the point. It made me have an aversion to issues of money. I'd just rather pay the bill. Because I don't ever want to get into a situation where because I watch people have strings on things when they do something nice to you. All that. No, dude, and I'm still dealing with it, okay? But it's just something, so money disputes are difficult. Jesus is being asked to get into one, so look at what happens here. Verse 14, Jesus replied, man, who appointed me a judge or an arbitrator between you? In other words, when did I switch roles? I'm a teacher. And now you're wanting me to mediate a dispute? Are you kidding me? Okay? So what he goes on to say, then he said to them, now here's the thing you and I need to realize. If you're reading a Bible and it's got red letters, this is what Jesus said, not me. And you need to take heed, because if Jesus said it, just believe he's wiser than you are. He said, watch out. So anything Jesus warns us to watch out about, you need to be cautious about. Because deceit is to think, I can handle this and not be cautious, right? It's all the people who say, oh, no, I've read the warning labels, I'm okay. It's just foolish. It's foolish. Jesus says, watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of what? Greed. Jesus is going to address an issue there. I'm like, oh, man, I didn't need to come today. I don't deal with that. All kinds of greed. Life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. Well, obviously, Jesus wasn't in America when he was teaching this. Come on, if we're honest, if you know anything about American lifestyle, American lifestyle is about what you possess. It's about what you drive. It's about what you wear. It's about where you live. Come on. We can be honest, this is church. You can't confess. When I was a kid, okay? When I was a kid, and I'm about, again, to date myself. When I was a kid, when you went to high school, okay, the wear that everybody wanted to wear was a brand called Polo. Still around, but it was really expensive. So it kind of class divided our high school, okay? Because marketing-wise, this company came up and it was called Knights of the Round Table, which was a cheap knockoff to Polo. Because Polo, okay, I grew up in Stanford. How many people have ever actually seen a polo game? You know, where a guy rides a horse? That's for wealthy people, right? But Knights of the Round Table, they put a knight on a horse. And it looks similar to the polo dude. All the parents are like, yes, it's 1/3 or less of the price. And I'm like to my mom, like going, no, you can't, no, I can't go to school with my sister buying my clothes. No, I can't, no Knights of the Round Table. It's like, no, that doesn't even look like a horse on a guy on a pole. And it was like, no, you wouldn't be caught dead in that end. And so it was a way to disparage, because why? It's all about, nowadays, come on. I mean, if you're a parent now, you know, nowadays, it's about what's on your feet, okay? Now, if you don't know what Yeezys are, okay, how many people know what Yeezys are? Okay, if you don't, then you just realize, man, I'm a little older than I thought I was. It's like, I was looking today, because like, you know, now, like one of the top ones, Air Jordan, retro ones, OG highs. Okay? It is with Jim Red. Okay? I looked it up. To buy a pair for myself right now is $480. But that's like the number one deal, like, whoa, yeah. Because why? It's all about what I wear, right? Nowadays, you know, if you're a parent, you know, your kids wouldn't be caught dead with Aeropostale or with American Eagle across the chest. No. The sweat gear, you got to be good quality sweat gear, but no names, no nothing on the thing, just plain out simple. Okay? Why? Because it is about this is America. What you drive. In fact, I watch commercials, and when I was a kid, we never even thought the idea that you would give your spouse a Lexus for Christmas. But now, you know, we got the bow on the Lexus. I'm like, what's the expectation? Okay? But that's what it is. So the issue is this. Jesus said life doesn't consist in the abundance of your possessions. We most assuredly have to guard against this end, because Jesus is about to give us a definition of greed that is brilliant. He's the first that ever did, the only one I know ever since. But here was Jesus' definition. If you're taking notes with me, follow this. According to Jesus, greed is an assumption that what we have is all for our consumption. Why do I say that? Go to the next part, because Jesus' parable, here, we're talking about parables of the kingdom. He told them this parable. In other words, he's about to address an issue that he just warned everybody about. Follow along with this Jesus story. He told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. Now, nothing wrong with that. Actually, that's a good thing. Because some people get whacked when it comes to spiritual matters. I grew up in a denomination that taught that somehow poverty was a sign of humility and holiness. No, you read the Bible, poverty is a curse. God's not intending that any one of us experience poverty. That's not God's will. That's not God's plan. God wants all of us to prosper. There's nothing wrong with prospering. There's nothing wrong with having things. It's just not letting things have you. And if you ever ask the question, how do I know if things have me? How easy is it to give them away? Whoa. Okay, do we have to go there? No, but listen. But you see, Jesus, it's not about what you have. It's really all about what you do with what you have. So here, this man, because the question for you, who owns the ground? Now you might think, well, I got a deed on that. I bought that land. But guess what? You're going to leave one day, and you ain't taking it with you. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Now, who caused the land to prosper? So God blessed this man. Don't miss that part of the story. God blessed this man. God doesn't have any problem with prospering his people. God doesn't have any problem with blessing. He said, and so he thought to himself, so what happens? He has an abundant harvest, right? So he thought to himself, what shall I do? He has a dilemma. He has a problem. In other words, listen, he has more than he needs, right? Because all of his barns were full, but now he has more than he needs. So he has a problem. What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. So in other words, he's got a problem. He has to create a plan. And here's what you and I need to gain today. What this man was struggling with, what all of us at times are tempted to struggle with, is what is the more for? So here, the man comes up with the plan, verse 18. Here is his plan. Then he said, this is what I will do. In other words, Jesus tells us, this is his plan. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. Now, most people on Wall Street, most Americans would go, man, that is amazing. That is capitalism at its height. Man, this is industry. This is great. So what is he saying? I'm going to tear down perfectly good barns and build bigger, newer barns. Most people, again, in the Western world would applaud that, would say, this is amazing. That's great. Wow. This guy should be given an award. Now, again, nothing wrong with being blessed. But the question is, what is it for? So he said, this is what I'll do. And he said, and this is what is the motivation. And then I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. In other words, according to this man, who did he believe the more was for? Himself, right? And the problem that we struggle with, when we live for just ourselves, we live a very shallow and meaningless life. Trust me, I had the responsibility of doing a funeral yesterday, and at funerals, do you know what people remember? I'll tell you the thing they never remember. The thing that never comes up at a funeral is how much somebody had. You know what is remembered? People's generosity. You know what is remembered? People's kindness. Because the things that really matter in life are the things that you do with when you have more. What do you do? What is the more for? It's when you know and understand that end of it. Is that what makes life meaningful? This man had a plan, and his plan was all about moi. So American, so self-centered, so self-absorbed. Man, I got bigger bank accounts, I got bigger things. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, because let me ask you the question. Have you ever been blessed? You ever got into a situation, you ever got a raise at work? You ever gotten a bonus? I mean, we're coming into year end. You ever gotten into a situation where you were blessed and maybe you didn't even expect it and you had more than you needed? What did you do with the more that you had? See, this man, he assumed that what he got was for him to consume. And again, you know, when we've been blessed, what happens? Well, take a vacation. Did you buy a new car? Did you buy a bigger house? Did you invest more money? And none of those things are wrong. But here's the question. Where does God ever fit in to that? Who was the one who blessed him? See, this is the deceitful part of money. Money can deceive you into thinking that you're self-sufficient. Money can give you an insulation that you think you don't need God. And we forget where the blessing comes from. You see, we struggle with the idea, are we owners or are we stewards? And you see, what this man was not expecting, he was about to lose everything. He was about to experience a total loss. Now, not from an earthly standpoint, but remember, we've talked in this series, what lasts? Is there a heaven? Are any of us planning to go? Because Jesus told us, if you lay up for yourself just treasures on earth, you will leave this earth, and all of those treasures you will leave behind. But every one of us have a chance to lay up treasures in heaven. Anything we do at the prompting of God to help the needs of others lasts for eternity. And you see, in this particular case, this man's plan was all about making his life easier. I mean, it sounds like the American dream in so many ways, right? But here's the point, and when we get into it, are there problems in our world? Is it easy in the current culture that we live in to think that's somebody else's problem? Even we as Christians, sometimes we pray for God to meet the needs of those people, but are we ever available to God to be the one that he meets it through? Has God entrusted the resources that are in our hands to be able to make a difference in our world? This is something that the body of Christ so desperately needs to hear. Because too often, you know what we've done? More and more, we have put the responsibility over on government. We've put the responsibility on over other people. When God wants to bless his people, because why? What was his intention? That we would be blessed to what? Be a blessing. God has no problem with us being blessed, but the question is, what is the more for? Do we fall into the trap this man fell into? Do we think that everything we've been given is purely for our own consumption? You ever see that? When you assume, you know what happens when you assume? Right? And this man assumed that everything he had. But here was Jesus goes on in the story. But God said to him, you, what? Fool. A fool is somebody that knows better, okay, but does it anyway. Okay? And we know we should be kind. We know we should be generous. But there's always excuses. And we think that somehow it doesn't apply to me. See, foolish people do things all the time. They think it'll never impact or never affect me. And you can start to live a life that way, because why does God call this man a fool? Because watch. He said, you fool, this very night, your life will be demanded of you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? The question here, who will get what you have prepared for yourself? You know the answer to that question? It's somebody else. And if you live your life pursuing it, I've watched people fall into it. I've watched people in the church that say to me, Pastor Ken, you know, I'm putting all these extra hours, I'm doing all this because someday I want to give God my whole life. I want to serve God. I want to do this. I want to be generous. I want to do all this stuff. And I'm like, if you ain't doing it now, your heart has become, you have a condition. It's the hardening of the attitudes of the heart that are resistant to God. And whether you realize it or not, conditions can start to take over your heart that you don't even know something is growing. And here, the question is, because let me ask a question. Does anybody know the day you're leaving this earth? Can anybody show me a side hand? Yeah, I'm dying next Wednesday at 2. Right? No, you don't know when you're leaving, so here's the problem. If you're living only for today, you're living like eternity isn't ever going to come. And God says that is foolish. Why would you go about just continuing to store up more, and never send anything ahead? This man experienced a total loss. He had nothing to show for all the prosperity, all the gain that God had blessed him with. He had nothing to show for it. That is foolish. That is living like tomorrow will never come. Go back to the verse again. God said, you fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you, and then who will get whatever you have prepared for yourself? Okay? Look at verse 21. This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. See, every one of us have a chance to do something, because remember I've said to you in this series, the way things will be there are what you do with what you have here. And the reality of it is, it's not about how much you have, it's about how you manage what you have. But here are the two things that we struggle with. And we're Americans, so we're going to struggle with this even more as it comes into the holiday time. The very first thing is discontentment. And what is discontentment? It's a condition of the heart. It's something that says, I am not content with what I have, so I have to have something else. And discontentment has the ability to turn wants into needs. If you're a parent, you know that. Because all of a sudden, I need this, I need that. But the truth of the matter is, adults do it all the time. You ever have a dispute in the family? You know, a guy comes up with this idea, I gotta have this. I need it. No. You want it, okay? But you built the whole rational case of why you need it, right? We go through this all the time. Why the clothes that you have today? I can't wear them now. They're so last year. No, I need new attire. I need to tear down these barns and build bigger ones. You see, we talk ourselves into, I need this. I need a bigger house. Okay? And then when we get the bigger house, then you got to fill the bigger house. Right? And then you fill the bigger house, and as soon as you get it full, it's out of date, and then we need to update. We need to look like it, because why? Our furniture is so 90s. It has to be changed. We need to look, right? So we turn, because what? Discontentment is fueled by awareness. Y'all know it, because watch. Guys, you were fine with the car you were driving till your buddy showed up with something new. Okay? Then you had to have it, right? Everything was good until what? You saw what you didn't have. Isn't that what they barrage? You can't watch a football game, you can't watch anything. We're hit with ads all the time, trying to get us discontent with what you have. Because guess what? That iPhone you have, the new one, has a camera. Oh, that just makes the other one. So nobody would want that. You have to have this one. So we turn in a perfectly good one and buy a brand new one. But Pastor Ken, isn't that being a good American? Doesn't that keep the economy chugging along? I'm just asking you to filter this through Jesus, not Uncle Sam. Okay? So here, what's the deal? Awareness fuels discontent, right? You were cool. Guys, you were cool with the stuff you had till your friend got something, right? And ladies, I'm not going to leave you out of it. You were great with your kitchen until your girlfriend updated her kitchen, and then you visited their home, and you came back and you go, these cabinets, these countertops, these appliances, all this has to go. We need new. We need better. We need update. We have to upgrade this place. This is a dump. Right? I mean, am I being real? Oh, yeah, I'm just on a rant today. No, that's what it means to be an American, because they fuel us all the time. That's what our ads are about. I mean, you can't get away from it. They feed on your phone, okay? You get all this stuff. It's like, ooh, what do you don't have? Your life will be happy if you have this. Ooh, babe, we have to have that. And guess what? Just like Christmas time for your kids, everything they had to have for Christmas, by the end of January, they're on to something else. Right? Because why? Here's what they're exploiting. What discontentment exploits is our appetites. Appetites are not bad. God created appetites, okay? Appetites are good because they gain passion to life, okay? But sin distorted appetites. So appetites are a horrible filter for financial decisions, right? Has anybody ever gone to the supermarket when you were hungry? Oh yeah, you buy far more than you ever intended to buy, right? And and so you have to gauge that. My wife knows that if I go to the supermarket and shop, I always spend more than I'm supposed to, right? And this is a part of it. We married two different cultures. I grew up in an Italian family, okay? And so in an Italian family, there's abbondanza. Okay, there's always, it's I don't know, because I was Catholic and Italian. So not having enough food is either a mortal or a venial sin. I haven't figured out which one. But the idea that there's not enough food is horrible. And when Kathy and I first met, when we were dating, we went to her family's house. I was meeting her sister and my brother, all these people, right? And we were going to eat dinner with them. So obviously I'm the guest. I go first. So I'm going through, and I'm like filling my plate. And Kat's like nudging me going, I can't believe you're taking all that. I'm like, why? I mean, I had a better metabolism back then. I was like, but no. So I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, you're not leaving much for anybody else. I'm like, they have more in the kitchen. Because in my Italian culture, I'm like, yeah, abbondanza, there's always plenty. She's like, no, that's all there is. I'm like, whoa, I'm not used to that. Because again, it's a part of it, so listen to me. You got to realize, sometimes in wisdom, you ever hear the term, eyes are bigger than your head? You know, when I was a kid, I don't know if parents still do this, but when I was a kid, okay, my parents used to say, eat all the things on your plate, and I didn't want to eat the stuff on my plate. How much do we throw away as Americans? Do you ever think about that? But my parents used to say this, do you know there are starving kids, and you fill in the blank? And so I wanted to say, well, why don't you send this to them? And it's a lame excuse because if we really believed there were starving kids everywhere, we would make less for dinner and send part of that on. Just exposing the hypocrisy of some of our arguments. But listen, it's our appetites. And what's the problem with appetites? Appetites, if we're honest, if you feed an appetite, what happens to it? It grows, right? You're never fully satisfied. Come on, we're going to go into Thanksgiving this week, right? And Thanksgiving is an American holiday when you are free to overeat without guilt, right? You can eat anything. You can have it coming out of your ears. You can eat till you are stuffed, right? But you all know, okay, after you've overeaten, guys especially, a couple hours later, you're going to be up looking for snacks. You remember, oh, wasn't more of that available? Because why? Appetites are never fully ever satisfied. And the more you feed an appetite, the more it grows. And that's the problem with appetites. So listen to me. If you were sleeping through all the rest of it, if you missed everything else I said today, what I'm about to tell you right now has the ability to change your life. And that's this. The way you manage your appetites will determine the direction and the quality of your life. Why? Because your appetites are why some of you have a big debt. Your appetites are why some of you have far more than you can take care of. Because it's like the buffet line. That's why, when you go eat, Christian people especially love buffets. Why? Because buffet is like, just pile it up. You ever watch people's plate come back from a buffet line? Right? It's like, oh my God, is that possible for a human to consume that much? Right? And then what? We throw so much away. Right? It's just the epitome of an overabundant culture. And the question is not having, I'm not teaching any way, shape, or form. Poverty is nothing good. The issue is, what is the more for? You have to control it because the answer biblically to this issue is contentment. Contentment. When Paul wrote about this, he said, godliness with contentment is great gain. See, the way to deal with discontent is to foster an attitude of contentment. I don't need that to be happy. You have to shield yourself. Some of you, this is holiday season. Some of you could use to throw the magazines away when they come to the house. Some of you could use to stay off the internet because you know that the more you look, the more you want. Some ladies, you all need blinders sometimes when you go to the mall because you went there to get one thing and you were walking down the aisle and you're like, ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. And it's all designed that way, right? And so you have to foster attitude. It's a heart attitude. Contentment comes from the inside. Because listen to me. When were you the most content in your life? Be honest with me for a moment. When were you the most content? If you're married, when were you the most content? Usually when people are newly married, they ain't got nothing, right? I call it, we used to call this when you got married, you had everybody's leftovers. So I call it early American marriage. Because, your relatives are like, hey, we're getting rid of this couch. Well, we ain't got one. Well, that's great. We celebrate that, right? And so, but when you're newly married, you ain't got nothing, but you're in love. You're content. The more you get, the harder it is to remain content. We're always content when we have less. The idea that we'll get more and that'll contain us, no. You feed an appetite, it grows. Contentment is learning to turn my attention. Listen to me. It's learning to turn my attention from what I think I need to put my focus on things that are legitimate needs. And if God blessed me, where can I be a blessing? So let's go through this. If you're taking notes, listen, let's bring this to a close. Listen, generosity is the only antidote for our heart against greed. Being generous. Being generous. It gives us the understanding that we're here to make a difference. It's not all about me. That God blesses me and I can, in truth, be a blessing. Because listen, if you're taking notes, watch this next one. True riches are when you know what the more is for. When it becomes a part of your vocabulary, okay, God, you've blessed me. Is there anything that you would like me to do with a portion of what you've entrusted to me? Has that even come into our consciousness? Is that even a part of our prayer life? Because here's the point. I know people in this church that are so stinking generous. They're so wonderful. They give all the time, and I watch them get blessed again and again and again and again. Because when you're faithful, God will make you ruler over more. See, God, you can't outgive God. But you see, what you have to also sometimes guard against is that idea of going, ooh, if I give, then I'll get. Giving to get is the wrong reason. That's not love and that's not faith. That's selfish. No, but when you give out of pure generosity, God blesses you again and again and again. And true riches is to know what the more is for. Because lastly, listen. This is so important. The only things that last are what we're willing to share. Does God know where all of the needs are on this earth? But has God entrusted us with it? Can I illustrate this? Does anybody here like chocolate chip cookies? Does anybody like chocolate chip cookies? Okay, who likes chocolate chip cookies? Ma'am, right there. Can you come here for a sec? Yeah, right there. With whoever. Somebody move, because I don't know your name. I call you by name. What's your name? Jerry, come on up on the stage for a minute. Jerry, you like chocolate chip cookies? Give Jerry a hand, come on. Jerry, you said you like chocolate chip cookies, right? Well, you see, God has blessed me. I love chocolate chip cookies. And see, I have 2 chocolate chip cookies. Jerry, how many chocolate chip cookies do you have?
None.
You don't have any?
No.
Oh, man. God wants you to be prosperous, dude. Let's pray for Jerry that that God will bless him with some chocolate chip cookies, right? Man, I'm enjoying these. I have one now, you can take one home. Maybe it's a car ride home. But come on, let's all pray. Y'all stretch your hand out that God will bless Jerry with some chocolate chip cookies. Can we all do that? No. No, listen. Does God know everywhere where people have 2 chocolate chip cookies? And does God know where people have no chocolate chip cookies? Wouldn't the right thing to do, come on, if you're a parent in the house, when your kids are growing up and they have friends over or family members that they didn't invite over, they don't want to be there, but you as a parent are trying to tell them to be kind and do what? Share. Right? So, Jerry, do you like a chocolate chip cookie?
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, you can have that. Thank you, bro. Give Jerry a hand, bro. But how many times do we take all of our chocolate chip cookies, keep them all in our bank accounts, 401ks, and every other thing, and pray that God would help meet the needs of all of those that are around that don't have any chocolate chip cookies? No, here, how does God operate? See, to be rich toward God means that when you have more than you need, that you actually consult God and be willing to help meet the need of somebody else. Because there, again, I said this before, but as I close today, listen to me. We've all had issues where we have done things with money that we have regrets for, that we wish we had that back because we wasted it. But I'm going to tell you the one thing you'll never regret, the one thing that you will absolutely never lose sight of, that when your heart has been given through love to meet the need of somebody else, those are things that you absolutely never, ever regret. And the good news from God is that they're the things that last for eternity. You see, when God has blessed us, and that's what he wants to do, is bless each and every one of us. And when we're willing to allow God's blessing on our lives to help be a blessing to someone else in need, that's how God builds his kingdom. So guys, as we close today, listen to me. Last year, first gift of Christmas, we always come this time of year. We ask you, because I mentioned this last week, Americans spent $720 billion on Christmas last year in the United States alone, just in the U.S., okay? We're asking you, yeah, buy gifts for your family, and it's all around, but how about if you gave Jesus the first gift of Christmas? What might he be able to do through your generosity to make a difference in the lives of others? Last year, your generosity, we gave Bibles World Compassion sent Bibles into Iran. And I showed you the testimony of that they brought Iranian pastors out from behind that area of restriction nation. And they say that those gifts are making the gospel explode in Iran. Last year, we raised money to rehab, to put a food pantry in the Atwater Senior Center. Watch what your money's made happen. Show them the video this morning. That's a part of what you guys made possible through last year's First Gift of Christmas, and also you helped us update the audio equipment here in our sanctuary for the stuff that was wearing out. But God, this is what this year's First Gift of Christmas is going to go towards. We always have three areas. Internationally, we're going to help build a church in Cuba. Whether you realize it or not, since the Castros have died, God has opened a door to Cuba. And one of our missions partners, there is a pastor that's there. He has a spot there. We're going to make happen a church of Jesus Christ to be built in Cuba. Number two, for our outreach area, this year, outreach has been exploding everywhere. We don't just serve during Thanksgiving and all the holidays. Listen, we serve all month long, every month. And so what the team told me they needed, we're going to raise money this year to buy a van. Because we have all of these things. We have a clothes closet that we put at the other. So, guys, that's exciting. This is going to empower ministry to go even further that way. So we're going to raise money for outreach to buy a van, and in-house this year. We're going to do some things for the heart of the house. One of the things we're going to do is in our back. We're going to update the back of our property and put a pavilion back there, redo our grounds so we can use this property more for community. And some community things that we want to do to build and foster community right here at Vertical Church. Come on, that's exciting. And so all of that is possible through the generosity of God's people. I ask you to just pray, let God put in your heart, and to know what the more is for. That's a way that you can make it happen. So let's all bow our head and close our eyes. Father in heaven.